Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Power Principles. Thanks to everyone who joined last week. This is week two of the Power Principles, and today we're everywhere, really. You can join us on YouTube. You're following on Facebook, you're following on the Thrivers groups, or you're following on any of my pages. Just let me know where you're watching from quickly. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know which of the platforms you're watching from, and, and um, I'll just say hello and let me know what platform you're watching from. All right, everyone. This is the Power Principle series. Like I shared last week, over the next 10 weeks, I'm going to be teaching a power principle every week, every Thursday. We're going to be sharing one power principle every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And you get the opportunity of joining me from any one of these platforms, be it on YouTube, be it on Facebook, be it on the Thrivers groups. And then we get a replay of the video on Fridays on on Instagram. This is not really that much of a interaction type engagement. Even though I'd like to see all um, your comments if you're being blessed by it. If there's something that strikes you, please share your comments, um, and so that we could look into it and probably just mention it. But this is just an opportunity for me to just teach things that I think would help anybody, things that I'm learning, and such that you can just literally take action and go. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Power Principle series again. I'm Aaron Tieran. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. I'm a trainer. I'm a facilitator. I'm a gospel artist. Um, and in this second lesson of the power principles. Last week we talked on understanding. Week one we looked at understanding, and today I want to talk on the power principle number two: the role of honesty in living a successful and rewarding life. The role of honesty in living a successful and rewarding life. The role of honesty in living a successful and rewarding life. That's what I want to talk about today. So pretty much the principle of honesty is what I think is the number two key principle, um, power principle. So from childhood, we've all been in situations where we've had to make choices. We've had to make choices about whether to behave honestly or to be less than truthful. As children, these may have ranged from taking money from your mother's pocketbook to lying. Anybody done that? Lying to spare ourselves punishment. And as adults, even adults, I don't know about you, but I have. We may have fibbed to spare someone's feelings or deducted a little bit more than we were entitled to on our own tax returns and things like that. Anyone done stuff like that? You don't have to own up here, but you understand what I'm saying. While we tend to give a lot of lip service to honesty, the daily news has shown us, for example, that a growing number of young people think that it's okay to cheat in school, that more drivers than not regularly exceed the speed limit. I do that. I've done that. Probably done that today. And that hardly any parent would think it wrong to buy a child's movie ticket for their preteen. And what's more, these kind of what we think are minor transgressions. I was watching a program this week, amazing documentary, and they were highlighting a lot of great coaches. And some of these great coaches did certain things that I wouldn't exactly say were honest, but guess what? They were featured on these documentaries I was watching, and many times we tend to justify and rationalize our actions, right? Because Everybody's doing it. It's really not hurting anyone. In fact, this might be the worst type of dishonesty is not to recognize the absolute nature of honesty itself, operating on that assumption that there are different standards of honesty. And what happens is we end up cheating our own personal integrity that lies innately within us. Now, what we find out is that we are draining our personal power and cheating ourselves. So today I want to talk on the principle of honesty. The principle of honesty has depth like an ocean, and it must be properly understood and internalized before we can really move meaningfully onto the other principles for success. So last week we looked at understanding, and today we're looking at honesty, and we're going to be looking at 8 more principles over this next 10 weeks. Although we're often exposed to examples of dishonesty in media, society as a whole has long celebrated honesty virtues. For instance, who hasn't heard that line that honesty is the best policy, or the folk tale of George Washington cutting down the cherry tree and proclaiming, "I cannot tell it." Great writers have often written and spoken about the virtue of honesty as well. And I want us to explore this fundamental virtue a little deeper today, not as a behavior, but as a personal attribute. You see, honesty is a lot more than not lying or speaking untruths. These things represent honesty's most conventional and superficial layer, definitely. But you see, honesty is far richer than this. It's a way, for me, honesty is a way to be with yourself. It's a way to be with your intentions and with others. It's a way to be with your intentions and with others. And I believe that core honesty has deep roots and a direct correlation to the results in your life. Because without honesty, nothing can exist properly and nothing can be sustained. So without honesty, nothing can exist and nothing can be sustained. There is no foundation. But when we live according to or within the principle of honesty, guess what? Our power multiplies. So let's look more fully at what honesty means and what it doesn't mean. We can define honesty as the quality of being truthful and sincere, quality of being truthful and sincere, of being more correct, of virtue, of being free of deceit, of being genuine, right? Yet there is also such a thing as being brutally honest in a way that needlessly hurts other people. And I think all of us understand this kind of abrasiveness and do our best not to hurt the feelings of others. We can still seek honesty that is in keeping with our own higher awareness and reality, but is also kind and not unnecessarily harsh. Honesty is not an excuse to say or do things that shouldn't be said or done. That's not what honesty is about. And it should never be a justification to be abrasive or tactless. Not to self. So to move forward in our lives, we must have that awareness and come to that place where we're in complete harmony with honesty within ourselves. We need to be in honesty within ourselves and in our own lives. And unfortunately, in the world we live, dishonesty is everywhere in our society. And one of its most common forms is often found within an individual. Within myself, there is dishonesty. I'm not talking about anybody who's listening. An example of this type of dishonesty is addiction. For some people, it could be addiction to drugs. It could be addiction to alcohol. For some, it could be addiction to sex. It could be addiction to hoarding. It could be addiction to shopping. It could be addiction to food. That's one of my addictions. You name it. And as you probably know, the first step to overcoming any addiction is give up the denial. Give up the denial. Give up the self-deceit. Because when a person begins to view themselves as their actions and consequences, honestly, that's the first step of change. When a person begins to view themselves and their actions and consequences, honestly, that's the first step of change. Only once they admit that there's a problem is it becomes possible for them to see a way, an authentic way of living. And then they can start the healing that is required to grow. So, see, letting go can be as much a part of honesty as forthcoming, because honesty is a systematic examination of and embracing of the truth. So, in developing honesty with yourself, you can become aware of who you truly are and who you are when nobody's looking. It's being willing to be open, being willing to be transparent and vulnerable and live from that place and to be straightforward and truthful with yourself when you aren't living up to your own standard of integrity that you set for yourself, right? We must be honest and value honesty with ourselves before we can be honest with others, and before we can begin to identify our true intentions and goals. Honesty allows you to be authentic. And listen, to be honest requires the courage and the willingness to look at yourself. Now, if you're listening to me, you see I'm approaching honesty from a different angle. Honesty requires you and I to look at ourselves and not pull any punches in terms of who it is you really are and who it is you need to be in order to do what it is that you want in your life. I hope you're following. So once we've taken this first step, often the hardest step towards self-honesty, we can then begin to take the other necessary steps, which will then help move forward towards our goals and towards being honest with others. The quickest way, in my opinion, to develop impeccable honesty with others is to always keep your own word. Keep your word to yourself. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Yet all around us, lies are being told, including yours truly. And lies are being lived into in every aspect of our lives. In our political figures, business leaders, athletes, like I told you, I was watching a documentary this week, entertainers, and sadly, even in our religious organizations. I read a story just literally before coming in here, something a religious leader did, who's just committed suicide because he's been living a dishonest life. He mistakenly sent his private part to the WhatsApp group of his entire church. So, and then he took his life after that. And that's as a result of someone who's been living a dishonest life, not being true to himself. And in each instance, in each instance, there's always a price to be paid. So, like in this scenario, we just saw that this supposed religious man of God who just took his life. And in each instance, there's always a price to be paid beyond just the individuals involved. In fact, and if you know me very well, you know I'm a man of faith. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul charged Timothy, his mentee, that first of all, prayers and giving of thanks be made for all men, that we may lead quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. So see, why did Paul think he had to put in that word? You want to live peaceable lives in all godliness and honesty. See, he considered it the highest of goals to live an honest life. And that's my charge to you all in this second principle. We're going to be looking at 10 principles over the next 10 weeks. 8 weeks ago, last week we looked at understanding, and today these are what I call power principles, and today we're looking at honesty. Paul considered it the highest of goals to live an honest life. And I think it owes each and every one of us to want to live to the highest of these goals. Now, we've all seen the contrast of lives not lived honestly, and they are far from godly or peaceable. The trademark of a life that is lived without honesty is check this out, is unsettled, unsatisfied, a frantic existence. So much energy goes into maintaining the fabricated persona that it truly does drain one's spirit. And while there are dishonest people who appear to be quite prosperous, they will never really experience the peace or unstoppable force of impeccable character. If you want to be effective in creating the life that you envision, if you want to be effective in creating the life that you truly deserve, you would inevitably have to work with other people, guys. Living and speaking from a place of impeccable honesty will gain you the respect, the admiration needed to influence others. In short, I want you to consider this. The result that you and I experience in our lives is in direct proportion to the honesty which others perceive in us. I think I'll say it again. The result that you and I experience in our lives is in direct proportion of the honesty which others perceive in us. Something I've found helpful as a tool has been to ask myself these three questions regularly when communicating with others. Number one, did I fully and honestly communicate what I really needed to say? You know, I was having a conversation with my wife today, and it kind of went a bit funny. It was going to become an argument. I said, you know what? Never mind, never mind, never mind. And in that moment, when I walked on to go do something else, I had to ask myself, did I just back out of that conversation? Did I fully and honestly communicate what I really needed to say? Number two is, did I hold back in any way? This is me being honest with myself. Did I hold back in any way? And these are three questions I think you should always ask yourself. And that I ask myself, that I'm encouraging you all to ask yourself. Number one, did I fully and honestly communicate what I really needed to say? Number two, did I hold back in any way? And if so, was there something that I could have said to address my points more honestly? And number three is, was I so preoccupied with how the other person might react that I edited my communication to something that was less than honest? So today I'm talking about us being honest with ourselves, honest with what you want to say, honest with you yourself, within yourself. You know, we all want to make sure that we're friendly and tactful when we express ourselves, but we need to be authentically honest without giving offense. You want to be in that place where you give honest, where you're honest without giving offense. I have found that honesty comes in at least three progressive stages. It begins with honesty with yourself. It then continues with honesty with others. So you see, it first starts with myself, honesty with yourself. It then continues with honesty with others. And then, by extension, honesty with your intentions and your actions. So honesty with yourself. First, you'll have to first come to that place where you're honest with yourself, and then honest with others, and then honesty with your intentions and your actions. When what you say and do correlates with what you think and who you are at your very core, I'll say, when what you say and do correlates with what you think and who you are at your very core, it is said that you are congruent. You know, in other words, you are in alignment, that you are living, being, and doing. You know, that you are a living being and doing on the outside in a way that is matching what's happening on your inside. In other words, you must do what you said you would do. You must do what you said you would do in the way that you said that you would do it. That's honesty. So when I'm examining myself and as I've been walking through these principles and examining how congruent I am with my words. So when I'm working even with my clients and I'm helping them with their fitness, I make it clear immediately to tell them, this is an area I am failing in at the moment. So my clients will tell you, I am very vulnerable and open to let them know the areas where I am failing. Yes, I am helping you with results, but there are also areas of my life where I have the struggles. And my fitness and what I eat is one of those areas. So when I'm examining how congruent I am with my words, when I'm examining how congruent I am with my thoughts, my intentions, and my actions, I ask myself some questions. Are my actions in alignment with, and do they follow what I've stated my intentions to be? Are my actions in alignment with, and do they follow what I've stated my intentions to be? Am I acting in the most effective way possible to achieve those intentions? Many of us have come up with all these things we want to achieve by the end of the year. Are you just using coronavirus as an excuse? Are you acting in the most effective way possible to achieve your intentions? Are you really giving your intentions your best? Am I resisting what needs to be done? Excuse me, because if I'm resisting, and I talk to my clients all the time, resistance, when you find a resistance, you are definitely not living, being honest with yourself. You see, because if I'm resisting, I want to ask myself, why am I resisting? Is there an incongruence between what needs to be done and my beliefs and my values or my aspirations? And the question I want to ask myself, as you ask yourself, am I being fully honest with myself in regards to my intentions and my goals and my vision? Are you watching, listening to me this evening? Are you being fully honest with yourself with regards to what you have told yourself you would be? Are you really fully living an honest life with regards to your intentions, with regards to your goals, with regards to your purpose, with regards to your vision? Are you? I want to share something I learned early in my personal development. One of those tough lessons I required a checkup from the neck up. At one point, my one of my mentors said, if you said to me, he said, if you weren't living exactly the life you like, then be open to consider that maybe you're living your life less than honestly. If you are right now listening to me and you are not living the exact life that you like, you are not living the exact life you dreamt of. You are not living the exact life you have envisioned. You're not living the exact life that you know is your purpose. Then I want you to consider that maybe, just maybe, you're not living your life, or you're living your life less than honestly. Think about that. And I want you to be open to the consideration that if you're not living the life exactly as you want, that maybe you're living a life that is less than honest. Think about it. And of course, when I heard this, when he said this to me, I wasn't really happy about that idea. I wasn't intentionally living my life dishonestly, but I had to remember what he said. Be open to the consideration. And for everyone who's listening, or who would watch the replay, or who would buy this recording, or be on this program when it's launched, I want you to be open to the consideration as you listen. Be open to the consideration. And just like me and what I'm going through, I'm spending weeks. I've been dealing with these principles for a while. I'm spending several weeks considering the point, because if you really want results, then you really have to be open to wisdom. Because in the areas where I've seen results in my life, I can trace a congruency in those areas. And I want to make every effort to live an honest life. But you know what? I had to also admit that my results you're seeing in your life right now is congruent to how honest you really are with yourself, how honest you are with your actions, how honest you are with your purpose, how honest are your intentions. A lot of people use the word intentionality, intentional. How honest are you with being intentional? By being intentional means that you have plans, you have good actions. And I have to really admit that my results speak for themselves as a result of how honest and true I am being with myself. And this is one of those things the mentor said to me. He said, after you've considered that, and I'm saying this to everyone who's listening, that's the moment right then you can only start a completely new life journey. Only then can you begin to live your life at a completely different level. See, guys, you will soon notice, as I did, and I'm still noticing, that the ongoing practice of honesty in all aspects of our lives will transform us at the core and transform us to the core. You see, when we stay in our comfort zones, when we don't fully acknowledge our real hopes, when we don't fully acknowledge our real dreams, when we when we become afraid to claim all the good that we really want in our lives, guess what? We're being dishonest with ourselves. And that's exactly what I've been doing in some areas of my life. And that's exactly what I was doing until this mentor called me out. And I want much more, and I wanted much more. But guess what? I doubted my abilities. I doubted my worthiness to have what it is that I wanted. And I've purposely in the past, and many of you are doing this, and that's why I'm using myself as an example. I purposely avoided being honest with my desires. Many of us are not truly honest with our desires. And I've purposely avoided being honest with my desires so I don't have to face my fears and my doubts head on. If you're really going to be an honest person, you're going to have to face your fears and your doubts head on to be congruent with what you said you want to leave. Les Brown once said, at times we're as honest as we can afford to be and as dishonest as we have to be with ourselves. And I can't think of any simpler way to express that, especially in this season. What he also means by that is not just with ourselves, but in the relationships we're created in which we know we cannot afford to be honest. Whether we fear judgment or punishment or something else, either way, internally or in our relationships, if we allow the dishonesty to have control, if we shortchange ourselves, we rob ourselves of the feedback that we need to take corrective action. We rob ourselves. I've gone through a certain pain in the last week, in the last 24 hours, really. And that pain for me was feedback that has led me to something I've had to do today that I'm like, wow, where has this practice been all my life? Without that feedback, without the feedback of pain, which a lot of us try to avoid, we can never truly grow to our next level. Without the feedback of tackling your desires headlong to know who you truly are, without that feedback of pain, you can never truly grow to the next level. And guess what? We stagnate in toxic situations. I used to be in an organization that became quite toxic for me. And I remember one of the leaders of the organization asking me to hold on with him in toxicity. No, you're not getting the feedback. You cannot grow to your next level. So you find yourself in toxic situations. When you find yourself in toxic situations, it's feedback that something needs to change. So I want you to imagine looking back at your life 3 years from today, knowing that you've heard what I've said, knowing that you've lived a life of impeccable honesty from today with yourselves and with others, with your hopes and your dreams. What will that life look like? Listen to me. Looking back 3 years from today, being that you've lived this next 3 years, or the last 3 years, impeccably honest with yourself, with others, with your hopes, with your dreams, with your desires. What would that life look like? Imagine it now as a life in which everyone who's listening, you've manifested your deepest, your truest, honest self, your true desires, that you've accomplished the things that really matter to you, that you've developed to become that strong, resilient, unbreakable bonds and relationships you've earned and developed over the last 3 years. I want you to see as a daily practice. Gauge your level of openness with yourself. Gauge your level of openness with others. Gauge your level of openness with your hopes, your dreams, your intentions. Gauge your level of openness with your actions every single day, throughout the day, and see how your practice of honesty can be deepened. Guys, this practice alone will give you access to what I call greater powers and resources than you ever thought possible. I'm confident, guys, that once you begin to experiment with this particular principle, this power principle, you will see how much more awaits undeveloped on the inside of you, and you'll be energized to grow your life even more. So once again, this is power principle 2, honesty. Last week we looked at understanding. I'll be back again next week with power principle 3. You can join me on any of the links over the next 10 weeks. We've done 2 weeks. I'm going to show up and I'm going to teach a principle I'm learning and just share with you. Put your thoughts in the comment sections. Let me know what you think. Let me know how this is helping you. Let me know how this is challenging you. Thanks for listening. This has been Aaron Tieran on the power principle number 2 of honesty. Hold your image. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dream. Be honest to yourself. Be congruent with yourself. Be honest to your dreams. Be honest to your desires. I'll see you next week. God bless. Speak soon. Bye.